Hey guys, welcome back to Bountiful Blessings Homestead. My name is Kat, and today we are going to make some goat's milk soap. I've had a few requests from friends on how do you make your goat's milk soap, so we're going to go through that together. Probably the first thing we need to talk about is kind of supplies that you need if you're going to do this. The first thing that's probably the most important thing is your safety equipment. When you're making soap, whether it's goat's milk soap or just, with water or whatever, you are going to be using lye. And lye, it will burn. It'll burn your skin. It'll also burn your lungs if you inhale it. And it can actually make you go blind if you get it in your eyes. So whenever I'm working with lye, I always wear a mask. Found a good use for these things. And I wear, these are just like from, I think I got these at Tractor Supply. But they're just like dishwashing long gloves. I'll also put on long sleeves so that nothing splashes up here on my arms. I also wear eye protection, because I do not want to go blind, obviously. So we're going to start out, working with our oils and getting them ready and measured. And then once we are done with that portion, we will get our colors and fragrances ready. And then we will, deal with the lye after that. So, I'm not going to put those on right away, but I will put them on, when I'm ready to start working with the lye. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out my oils. So I prefer to use a kitchen scale because it is the most accurate. So that is right here. The one that I have, when you turn it on, it has units on this side over here. So I can change it if I want it to be grams or ounces or, whatever I want it to be. I'm going to do it in grams because that is what my recipe calls for, is grams. So when I'm using this, it'll be zeroed out. But once I put my pot that I'm going to put my oils in on here, it's going to actually, it goes up to 1,159 grams. So I'm going to push the on button again, and it's going to zero it out with the pot on it so that when I am putting my oils in, it's only weighing the oils. It is not weighing the pot. Now, this pot is one that I got, actually, if you can believe it or not, this is a Pampered Chef pot. But I got this at Goodwill for like $5 or something. And I don't use it for anything else except for soap making. Because I am working with lye, I don't want to risk using it for soap and then using it for cooking food for my family. So it is only used for making soap. All right, so we're zeroed out to 0 grams. The first thing the first ingredient in my recipe is olive oil. And it's probably the biggest ingredient, 1,680 grams roughly. So I'm just going to pour it in here until it gets up to 1,680 grams. And once I get it to 1,680 grams, then I'll be ready to add the next item. Okay, I'm going to slow down a little bit because I'm at 1,650 roughly. I have a kitten trying to get involved. Get down, please. Thank you. A little more. And the measurements really are important to be precise, guys. So you can really make your soap not want to set up properly if it doesn't have the right amount of each item. So, okay. So the other thing I will say is a lot of people use other oils. I just happen to use olive oil as my base, and then coconut oil and some coconut butter, cocoa butter as my super fat. So other people use, avocado oil, castor oil, lard. There's a lot of different ways to do this. This is not a melt and pour. You can buy a melt and pour like on Amazon, which is basically soap that's already been made. And you're just melting it and then pouring it into, adding colors or fragrances to it and pouring it into a mold. This is not that. This is from scratch, and instead of water in my recipe, I use my goat's milk. So super conditioning for the skin. Excellent, excellent for the skin. Okay, so the next thing is coconut oil, and we need 473 grams. So I'm going to zero it out on here again. So I have my oil in the pan, but I'm zeroing it out so that all it's weighing is coconut oil. And we're just going to start spooning it in. Now, the coconut oil that I get is solid. So we are going to have to warm this up a little bit to melt the coconut oil and the cocoa butter, both. But that's okay because it needs to, we want it to be, the oil to be about the same temperature within maybe 10 degrees of the lye solution when we get it made, because we want to make sure that we are in the same realm of temperature for consistency as it's melding. So we said we need 473 grams. We are currently at 210. The other thing I will say is you don't have to buy super expensive fancy oils to use in your soaps. I got the coconut, or the coconut oil and the olive oil at Sam's Club. They're the Members Mark brand. They are, pretty good size, containers, unlike, a small container you would get at the regular grocery store. So, 473, we're at 345. And so, it works just beautifully. I mean, coconut oil and olive oil, when it comes to making things, not necessarily for cooking, because some people are very finicky about their olive oil for cooking, but for the most part, there's really not a lot of difference in them. So there's no need to spend a ton of money on them. But they're good quality as far as what they're doing for my soap. I'm very satisfied. My customers are satisfied. Okay, we got a little extra. I took that off. Okay, so I've got that in here. And I'll show you what that looks like. If I can bend you down here. So you can see the olive oil is liquid, obviously, but this is our coconut oil. So we're going to need to get this melted down. So I am going to put that back over on the stove, just on a low heat, or kind of a medium heat. And I'm only going to leave it on there for a couple minutes because I just want it to start to get melted down. The other thing I need is 20 grams, right? Yeah, 20 grams of cocoa butter. So my cocoa butter is in solid chunks, the way I ordered it. And so I'm going to see, oh, it smells so good. See if I can find a piece. So that's 31 grams. So I'm going to break off a piece if I can. See if I can get a little bit of it broken off here, because I want it to be as close to that 21 grams. Pretty close. Okay, this is the extra. It's going back in my bag. I'm not going to waste it. I'll use it on another batch. Okay. So that's my piece of cocoa butter. I'm going to put that in the pot also to melt. Okay. So now that we have those ingredients done, we can move the oils out of our way and get ready for the next steps. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to get my colors ready. And if I'm going to use more than one color, I try to get those prepped ahead of time so that when I am ready to color my soap, that it's ready to go. I don't want to have to stop and mix color, because sometimes, depending on the fragrance oil that you use when you're making your soap, it can accelerate your saponification. So saponification is the process where the lye mixes with the oils and it actually turns to soap. And sometimes it will accelerate your trace, which I'm going to show you when we get mixing. And when that happens, it makes it so that your soap sets like that. And if that happens, you can't put it in the mold. You can't do any fun swirls on the top or anything, because it gets set really quickly. So I'm going to grab my colors, I'm going to grab my fragrance, and then I will be right back. And I'm also going to turn the heat off here and just set this off to the side so it can not get too hot, because I don't want to have to, if you heat your oil too long and make it too hot, then you have to wait for it to cool down to match up with your lye water solution, or in my case, lye goat's milk solution. And that's a pain in the butt. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I decided that I'm going to use from Mad Micas, the Blue Tide. Love this blue. And then white, which will be the titanium dioxide. It comes in a larger bag like this, and it makes a big mess. Kind of like powdered sugar. And then the scent that I'm going to be using is from Nature's Garden. It's a fragrance called Mandarin Tiki. It smells kind of like a tropical... I don't know, tropical drink or something. Fun. My recipe calls for the fragrance to be 10 grams per pound of soap. And this makes 7 pounds of soap. So I need to have approximately 70 grams of this oil. I'm going to zero out my... But I'm not going to use that much. I'll probably put in about 50 grams. That'd be good. I don't like things to be overpowering because fragrances can bother people, especially with a soap that you're going to be using a lot on your body. I mean, you don't want to smell like, you know, you just walk through a perfume shop. So I have it poured in a little cup here. Okay, there's my fragrance oil. I'm going to set this aside. Then I'm going to do my micas. Now, my mica is, what does it say here? 1/4 teaspoon per pound of soap. I have this little guy here. This is 1/4 teaspoon per pound of soap, right? But I'm going to do like the bottom in white and the top in blue. I'm going to layer it. So I need probably half and half. So for this, instead of doing it for 7 pounds of soap, I'm going to do it for like 3.5 pounds of soap, which means 1/4 teaspoon for every pound of soap. I'm going to need 1, 2, 3. I'll probably just do 4. Be close enough. Okay. So I've got that in my dish here. I'll show you. It looks like this. As you can see, mica powder sticks to everything. So. All right, and then I'm going to clean off my measuring spoon. I should have done my titanium dioxide first, but I'm going to clean off my measuring spoon with a paper towel. Grab one of those. Okay, and then I am going to get my titanium dioxide put into the other container. Now, goat's milk is white, but when you heat it up, it takes on kind of a yellow tint to it. And I have found that it takes actually more titanium dioxide than what the recipe calls for to get a white if I want one. So I'm probably going to put more titanium dioxide in this container than what the recipe calls for. So instead of doing 4, I'm probably going to do like 6 of these little guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll just do 5 and 6. I can always add more later if it's not getting dark enough white. That sounds really silly, but white enough white. And the thing about these is the Mad Mica, the mica powder, we need to put a little bit of our olive oil in to mix it. Whereas the titanium dioxide, I put water in to mix it. So it's supposed to be oil soluble like the mica, but I'm telling you, I've used the oil with the titanium dioxide and it did not mix down nicely. Not sure what happened with it, but when I use just water, which another soaper suggested, it works fine. So I use water with mine. Now the reason we want to do this before we add the color to the soap mix, the batter, is because we want to get all the little lumps out and make this into like a really runny, creamy dye. You can see it in there. It's all mixed now. Whereas it was like this, all powdery. Now it's like this. Okay. And it's really important that you do that because if you don't, you will have little dots and streaks of your colorant all through your soap, and it does not look attractive. So this water I use for making bread and things like that. It is room temperature, so I'm just going to use a little bit of room temperature water here. Mix this up. If I need more water, I can add it, but I think I've got enough here. Make sure all the lumps are out. So there we go. Okay. All right. So now it's time to get our lye mixture ready. So what I'm going to do is I have a stainless steel bowl, which using stainless steel is probably preference here. And I'm going to use this to mix the lye mixture with the lye with my goat's milk to make the water mixture. Okay. All right. So I'm zeroing that out. I'm going to grab my goat's milk soap out of the freezer. When I bring in my goat's milk soap, I process it. I run it through a double sieve and make sure that it's all clean and everything. And I put it right in the fridge in ice water. That keeps it from tasting goaty. When people have drank my goat's milk, they say it tastes just like cow's milk, and that's because I'm really careful about getting it cold right away. And then after a couple days, I will pull it out and pull the cream off the top and freeze that to make butter. And then I will freeze the goat's milk in small containers or in ice cube trays. And then that's what I use to make my soap. It's much easier to deal with it when it's frozen because also from a chemical standpoint, because when the lye goes into the goat's milk, you don't want it to curdle the milk. And when the lye reacts with the liquid, it's going to heat up. It gets very, very hot. And so if you use ice cubes, if you're doing water, or in this case, frozen goat's milk, it keeps that reaction from happening where it turns the milk curdled. And it also helps keep the temperature down so you don't have to wait for it to cool down for your mixture with your oils. So I'm going to put on my safety gear and get some goat's milk out of the freezer, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I have my goat's milk here. Got it out of the freezer. I'm going to zero that out. Putting on my safety gear, got my long sleeves on. Put my mask on. You do not want to breathe these fumes in. I should put my mask on before my gloves. But you do not want to breathe the fumes in, okay? So also when you're doing this, you don't want to be like over the top of it like this. You know, you want to be standing back. So you also don't want any pets near you. I removed all the animals from the area. I do have a couple of cats and a dog, and they are not nearby. Well, the dog is, but she's asleep on the couch. The cats I got put in the other room. So, okay, this is our lye solution, or our lye, I should say. Okay, and we need 337 grams. So I have this zeroed out. And I'm going to start pouring this on here. And you can see I'm like way back here. I'm not like over the top of it, right? And I don't want to be rushing anything because I don't want to overspill too much in here. Perfect. And I don't want it to splash up on me. I have this in a giant tub with a locked lid in the other room. And then I fill this up as I need to. And it is sealed in a bag. I don't want my kids, or my animals to get into it. So, okay. So now I'm going to take a spoon. And I'm just going to move this lye solution, you can see, right here, around on my soap. Okay. And let me turn this down so you can see, because what it's going to do is it's going to start melting the soap. Okay, so this you don't want to splash this up on you, so don't be like wildly stirring. I'm just moving it around the soap. Okay. Just moving it around on here. And this little ice cube that I threw in here to give it a little extra, because I was a little short, is already melting. Okay, so we're gonna gently stir this. I can see the edges here are starting to, I don't know if you can see that, but they're starting to melt a little bit. It won't take very long. It'll just take a few minutes and it'll be all melted down. We're just going to keep moving this so it doesn't scald any of the soap. And I don't know if you can see this, but right here on this edge, it's getting shiny. That's where it's melting. That's where it's melting. So we're just going to keep mixing this together. And we, like I said, we don't want to be right over the top of it. We don't want to be smelling that. It literally can burn your lungs. It can make your eyes burn to the point where you're blind. So we just want to keep mixing it gently and not splash anything on ourselves. Okay. And then we'll scrape down the sides a little bit. Make sure the lye is all getting incorporated in there and not up on the sides of the bowl. You can see this was that ice cube, and it's almost melted completely. Okay. Now, another important tool to have on hand is one of these handy dandy thermometers. Right now it's saying that this is at 87.6. My oil's at 102. But as this melts down, this is going to get up there. So as the lye incorporates into this ice, it'll get warmer. So this is kind of the time-consuming part. When I work with, sometimes I just use all little ice cubes instead of the big chunks. And when I do that, it melts a lot faster because, you know, it's smaller surface area that it's melting on those ice cubes. So looking good. It's melting down. Now it's up to 101.8. So I told you it wouldn't be too long. Now this is the part when you've got a lot of liquid in here you have to be careful of. You don't want to flip this over trying to get it melted and have it go splashing up on top of you, because then you could burn yourself. So got to be really careful. A lot of people don't like using lye in their homes at all. They use it all outside. And it's quite possible that I'm going to put in a air-conditioned shed outside on the property that I could do my soap making, so that it's not in my kitchen. But I'm really careful. I clean everything really well before I make my soap, and then I clean extra well after I'm done making soap. I'll take Clorox wipes and scrub down all the countertop area here and the stove area. Even if I don't splash anything out, I still am very careful about that. And then I will also, you know, wipe it down with dry paper towels and just make sure that it's all very clean. So, all right, so this is melting nicely. We're at 102.9. I don't know if you can tell, but it's starting to get more of a yellow color to it. This is what I was talking about, that it doesn't stay super white. And that's just part of the composition of the milk. Now let's see here. We're here. 101.1. for the oils right now. So set it aside so that I can wash it. So I'm going to take you over to the stove and I'll be right back. Okay, we're at the stove. And now what we're going to do is we're going to mix our lye water, or in this case lye goat's milk, with our oils. Now, this is a stick blender if you don't have one. They are amazing, and I would highly recommend you get one if you're going to make soap. All right, so I am going to take my ladle, which I know I'm going to need. I'll put that here. And I have a container to put my beater in when I need to. I'm going to put my beater into my oil, okay, at an angle. And I'm going to gently, very slowly, pour the lye mixture over that beater into the oil. By doing that, I can avoid it splashing up on me. Okay? All right. I have a spatula here I can use to scrape everything down. Make sure we get all of our lye water or lye milk out of there. Okay. And like I said, I like to get this rinsed out right away. I'm going to rinse this really quickly just to get that top layer of lye off of the bowl. And then I will wash that with soap. Okay. So now we're going to give this a little stir. I am going to turn this up on its side in case there's any air caught underneath that beater. I want it to come up. I want to avoid bubbles as much as possible. Okay, and we're just going to mix. What we're going to do is we're going to mix until we get to what we call a light trace, or right before that. And a light trace is when you can dribble your batter across the top and it'll leave a little line, like you're tracing a letter or something. Okay, so we will see. This should only take a few minutes. So you can see they're starting to come together. We don't have the oil on the top, or oil on the bottom, and then the lye sunk to the bottom and the oil was on the top. We don't have that anymore. Now it's all one consistent color. Okay. You'll notice also I'm not taking my blender out of the pot. I'm leaving it down in there. I don't want to splatter this on myself. It's still very, very hot and I don't want to get burned. When it reaches a light trace, I'll be able to pick this up, go like this, and I'll be able to see little lines across the top. I cannot see any lines yet. Did you see that bubble come up? I burped this so I don't have any bubbles in there. We'll go back to stirring. And I can't tell you how long this will take because it depends on what temperature you're at. Everybody stops at a different temperature, and you know, you're supposed to be within 10 degrees of each other, and ideally around 90 or 100 is a good place to be. If you do let it blend at a higher temperature, you may have false trace and it won't set up right, or you could get it where it will set up so fast you won't be able to do anything with it. So you don't want it to accelerate either. Not quite yet. I'm going to burp this. You see that bubble come up? We're not quite there yet. Almost there. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and add my fragrance. I have not used this fragrance before, so I'm going to go ahead and use it because sometimes fragrance oils can accelerate your batch. And so I want to make sure that I get this mixed in and don't over mix. So get this mixed in. So it smells really good. I can feel that it helped thicken it up a little bit. It's not accelerating too badly, but it is thickening it up a little bit. I can feel that. I'm not seeing the lines yet. But I can definitely feel that it's thickening. Almost. I can just barely see a little bit of a light trace. Give it just one more minute, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the colorant. So I'll have to split the dough, or the batter, and then I'll add the colorants. Okay, so I got these containers. They have the pour spouts on Amazon. They're relatively inexpensive. I think they came in 3 packs. I'm going to use these to separate the dough because, the batter, I should say, because we have our blue and our white. I'm going to leave what's in here and turn it white. I'm going to put batter in here and make it blue. Okay, so I'm going to take my ladle and just put some in here. And I'm going to do that for the second one too. Okay. So those are ready to go. I'm going to get my coloring here. This is the blue that I mixed up. Let me bring you down here so you can see better. Move this out of the way. Okay. Pour this in here. And let's see how it goes. Let's see if I like the blue. Again, this is still hot, so you still have to be really careful as you're mixing this that you don't make it splash. And I'm making sure that I'm getting around all the sides here to mix all of the colorant with all of the soap mixture. So this is the blue we've got right here. Very pretty. Then I'm going to mix some in here. And I don't want as much. I just want a little bit of blue. I want it to be a light blue. I'm going to bring up some of the soap batter in here, swish it around. Just try to get the rest of that in there. So this should be a little bit lighter than the other blue when we get it done here. Cleaning all that blue. Don't want to lose our mica. Don't want to waste it. And I'm just mixing it in here to clean the blue off the sides is all I'm doing. And then pouring it back in here. All right, now let's mix this up and see what color blue we get. Should be relatively light blue. Yeah, it's almost a sea green. Not quite blue enough for me. And this is part of the art of it, right? Like you can do whatever you want as far as the colors go. I might even pour a little bit of this blue in here to try to, wipe that up. Get it a little darker. Okay. So this is kind of a foam green, like a sea greenish blue. So we'll see how this goes. I think I'm going to add a little more mica powder to here. I'm going to add a little more blue mica and get this jazzed up a little more. So, just because it's not blue enough for me. Okay. A little bit of oil. I don't want to pour it right into that batter because, you know, I don't want it to be all spotted up. So, trying to get it, to get all the little clumps and stuff worked out before I put it in this batter. Okay, now we're going to pour this in here. And then we'll see how we do. See if we get closer to a light blue. I didn't really want a green. I wanted a blue that's a little bit lighter than that one. So hopefully that's what we'll get here. All right, now let's see what we get. Oh yeah, that's more blue. This is more of a turquoisey blue. So now we have this blue. I like that. Okay. So then we need to do our titanium dioxide, which is our white. And like I said, I won't be surprised if I have to add more to this because It never seems to be enough for whatever reason. So, see how this goes. Still looking pretty yellow to me. Yeah, still looking pretty yellow. I'm going to have to do some more. I'll mix up some more titanium dioxide. Get some more of that in here. Mix this up. Get all the clumps out. All right, I think that's better. And as this sits and it goes through the gel stage, some of the coloring will change a little bit. So it won't always stay exactly the way that you have it when you first put it together. So the white might get a little whiter, or the blues might get a different shade of blue. You know, just depends. And sometimes that's really frustrating because you have just the color you want when you mix your colors in. And then sometimes it's okay because you didn't have a color you wanted and you're like, oh, well, I kind of like that better anyway. All right. That is still not very white to me. You can see it's lighter, right? But it is not what I would consider white. So I think we're going to add just a little bit more and see if we can get it whiter. Okay, we're getting closer to white now. And I think that as it goes through the gel process, it'll do even better, so that'll work. Okay, rinse off my gloves because I've got titanium dioxide all over them. So I want to get that all over my clothes. All right. So we have a couple of molds here. These I also got on Amazon. Let's close this up so we don't get that mica powder wet. Move these out of the way. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I want to do some white on the bottom. So we're going to put this on the bottom. We're just pouring it into our molds with our scoop here, our ladle. And I'm going to do about halfway up, maybe. Not quite, maybe a third of the way up. Okay, about a third of the way up. I'll do the same thing over here to this mold. These molds I also got on Amazon. I can put a link in the description for you guys if you're interested. They're your basic starter molds. They're wooden molds and they come with the rubber liners, or silicone liners, I should say. I think they're about the same. Okay. Then I'm going to take some of this lighter tealy greenish blue that I did, and I'm going to pour it in. Now, when I pour it in the mold, let me move you guys over here so you can see. If I pour really close to this layer, it's not going to do that. So I'm going to try pouring really close to this layer so that it kind of stays on top like this. Okay, and then I'm going to do the other. And I'm just scraping out what I have left of that color to finish covering this section. Now, it may go through some, and that's fine. I'm sure it will. But I just don't want it to be completely all the way through there. Okay? And then I can just take my spoon and just kind of move it over to the sides. Make sure it's all covered. A little bit. Very gently. I'm not pressing down into the soap. I'm just very gently moving it so it's covering the whole surface here over the white. Okay. I'll move this over here. Bring this up so you can see it. So you can see how there's white here. We're just going to try to move a little bit of that teal so it's covering the white. Just a little bit. So we have a layer. Okay? All right. So that's that. Then I'm going to do the same thing with my darker blue. Okay? So again, I'm going to try to be as close to the soap as I can here, because I want it to sit on top of that. And I don't want it to necessarily go through, because I'm trying to do kind of an ombre effect. Okay. So same thing here. Okay. Now, I'm getting warm, and the chance of me getting lye on me now is pretty well over. I mean, there is lye that hasn't saponified in the soap, but I'm no longer dealing with the lye by itself. Now I'm a hot mess. Look at this, I'm sweating. But you have to be careful, so that's the way it goes. Okay, so now, I wouldn't recommend taking off your safety gear. Like, probably should have it still on, but I'm sweating, so that's what's happening. I'm going to grab a paper towel. And I'm going to just clean off the edges. You can see here, just got a little soap on the edges here. I'm just going to clean that off. Same thing over here. Just going to clean that off. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to do white again. And this time, the white's going to sit on top. And then I'm going to do a layer with decoration for the top. So we're going to do a swirl technique on the top. So hopefully this will, oh, it really smells good, you guys. Hopefully this will sit on top. Yep, it's sitting up nicely. That's exactly what we want. We don't want it to sink down in, so that's great. It's sitting on top of that teal. Okay, perfect. I'm going to move this and do the other one. I may have to do a little more. We'll see. Here's the other one. I'm pouring very gently because I don't want it to break through that blue teal. So very gently. Now, I find that these molds hold, you know, roughly 3 if you're doing a swirl technique, 3.5 if you're doing piping on top, pounds of soap. And so I usually have little molds nearby so that if I have leftover soap in the end, I can use the little molds to fill them up, and I don't want to waste any of the soap. I make little like sample sizes with it. So that's really fun. So I will do that at the end. I'll save a little bit of this for sample sizes. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside. Tap this down gently but firmly. Make sure I get all of the air bubbles out. Okay, now I'm going to take this one, the blue, and I'm just going to do a line up and down the top. Like that. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just making this up as I go. Okay, I'm going to leave that sit there. And then what I like to use is a skewer. You can get packages of these wooden skewers for like super cheap from the dollar store, like 100 of them or something for $1, I don't know. $1.25 now, as it were. What I'm going to do is just go around the edge. Okay. I'm going to go just deep enough to do the top. I don't want to do the whole thing. Okay, I'm just doing the top. So I'm barely in there because I don't want to mess up all the layers down below. And I'm going to do a swirl this way. Okay. So that did a pattern on the top. Same thing here. Okay. We're just going to go back and forth. And we're not very far down because we don't want to mess up the pattern on the bottom or the layering. Okay. And throw that away. Now, the other thing you can do is you can take one of your spoons and you can do like a wave design on the top. So like this one over here, since there's a whole lot of blue teal over here kind of spilled in, I can do a wave, and I'm going to wait. I'm going to let this sit for just a minute because it'll do a wave a little bit easier if I let it sit. So let it sit for a couple minutes. We'll come back and I'll put a wave design on the top. All right, so this sat up for a little bit. We're going to see if we can do a little design with it. Just going to move it towards the middle. Hopefully you can see that, how it's going up towards the middle. Then up here, I'm going to do the same thing on the second level, give it a little more height. And hopefully, it'll look like waves on the top when it sets up. We'll see. And that's the beauty of it. You can do whatever you want, you know. This one looks really pretty. But I think I'm going to go ahead and do the waves over here. And get those set up. And then I have some, a small mold that is seashells. So I think I'm going to do some seashells with what I've got left over because I've got quite a little bit of batter left over. And then those can be, what do they call those? Like little guest soaps. I can sell them in little sets, or they can be out as samples for people to, you know, smell the scents and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think that'll be all right. Okay. So then I have this left. I don't know if you can see it here. Of the blue, quite a little bit, and a little bit of white left. So I'm gonna get the small, molds that I have. I'm gonna use what's left. Clean off the edges here. The next step will be to force gel. And what that means is I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap, and then I'm going to put a towel over the top of it, and I'm going to leave it sit for at least 24 hours. And then during that time, it will saponify and it will harden. And when that happens, then I'll be able to cut it. So the next time you see me on the video, I will be showing you how to unmold these and then how to get them cut. So here's what they look like now in the molds. And crooked. In just a few minutes, by the magic of video, you'll be able to see me take them out and cut them. Okay guys, it's the next day and our loaves have been sitting and moving to gel phase overnight. I'm gonna pop this out. And these silicone liners peel right off. So I'm gonna do that. Turn it up here and just peel it right off. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in my cutter. I'm gonna turn this down so you can see. Here we go. And I'm going to make a couple cuts. This cutter set also came from Amazon. It has 1 inch wide cuts. So we have 1 inch wide spaces for our soap bars. And this is what this one looks like. Oh, it smells so good. Smell it. Can you smell it? Oh, it smells so good. So each piece is going to look a little differently, just depending on how it came out of the mold. Let me pull this. And when we did our pour, if you'll remember, put those up there so I can do another cut. And here we go. So each one of these is going to look completely different than the others. I mean, the same color scheme, but the little patterns that form, that one looks like an owl. The little patterns that it forms inside here are all going to be different. So that's kind of a fun part about a drop swirl, which is what the technique's called that we did together yesterday. So just kind of fun, oceany. All right, so that's it. I have the other loaf here as well. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to cut all of them. Got soap on myself. What's new? I'm going to then put these on my drying rack, and they have got to dry to cure for about 4 to 6 weeks. And what I have is a rack. It's just like a regular shelving unit, but it has kind of the little holes in the shelving to let some air flow through. And then I will put some wax paper down underneath these and sit them up with a little space in between so that they can get airflow all around them. I also have just a little bit of soda ash. I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of like these little white speckles on the top, which, I mean, if I didn't point it out to you, you probably wouldn't even notice it, but I notice it. And the way to get rid of that is I'm going to take just a little bit of isotropic alcohol and just use a little dabber and wipe off the top with that, and then that'll take that right off. So it's just from the curing process and the air getting to it a little bit. So yeah, I'll get them cleaned up and get them ready to cure, and then they can cure for the next 4 weeks, and they'll be ready for our show on May 14th. So I hope you've enjoyed this demo, and I will see you all soon. Until next time, be blessed and be a blessing. Bye for now.